Off the back of our episode featuring the foods in the US that Aussies avoid, we head over to the other side of the Pacific and turn the tables as Americans in Australia state their foods to stay away from in the land down under. There's some Aussie staples on this list that will be sure to have you scratching your head, so stick around and I'll count them down from 10 all the way to number 1.
Can you hear the thunder? Oh, you better run, you better take cover. Oh.
When talking to Americans that live here in the US, not many people are really aware of what constitutes Australian food. The Outback Steakhouse chain here gives a fairly poor impression of what we eat back home. And whilst many people think that a shrimp on the barbie is synonymous with Aussie food culture, this list is made up from the American community living in Australia. And it's an interesting contrast to the reverse video that we put out recently. And in a way, I guess it shows that what we grow up with really has an effect on our own tastes. So with that, here's number 10. The pie floater. The pie has a long and established history all the way back to the ancient Egyptians. But no one has taken a good thing and adapted it as much as Australia has. Now, I'm a fan of a good meat pie, whether that be meat, curry chicken, or even lamb. But this one, I must agree with, is not on my list of things to eat either. The practice of throwing a meat pie into a thick pea soup and usually topping it off with some tomato sauce is believed to have been created in the 1890s by a guy by the name of Shorty Bradley in South Australia. Now, what gave him this idea is anyone's guess. Did he accidentally drop a pie into a bowl of soup one day and think, hey, eureka, I've just made up a new dish? But since then, it's actually grown in popularity in South Australia and was recognised by them in 2003 as an Australian heritage icon. Coming in at number 9, seafood pizza. Australia has some of the best seafood in the world. So how about mixing that with pizza? Not a good choice according to our Down Under visitors. Smother your pizza with the freshest and tastiest seafood available in Australian waters. Sprinkle on some chili flakes for a bit of extra zing. And don't forget that can of beer or a chilled Chardonnay as well. You'll typically find mussels, fish, prawns and calamari on top of a tomato base, otherwise known as marinara. Now, occasionally I've seen oysters on there and different variations like a garlic prawn pizza or even baby octopus and balsamic with spinach. Personally, I'm not a fan of the seafood pizzas either. So at this stage, I'm going to agree with 2 out of 2 from this list so far. Jumping in at number 8, kangaroo. The Australian official coat of arms features the kangaroo and the emu. So we as a country decided, why not eat our national symbol? In some areas, kangaroos overpopulate the countryside and they can breed like rabbits. So honestly, they can grow to very quick, large populations, destroying crops and becoming hazardous on the roads, just like this one.
The English band covered, didn't they? That's where it comes from.
Kangaroo goes really well with garlic and rosemary and fruity flavours too, such as plum, red currant and orange. Alternatively, if you aren't keen on a whole kangaroo steak, kangaroo sausages have become an increasingly popular 98% fat-free alternative and are delicious thrown on the barbie too. Now, I'm a fan of kangaroo. It's a flavour similar, I guess, to venison, and no, Australians do not deep fry koalas to go with this. We move on to number 7, Chiko Rolls. First created by a Boilermaker from Bendigo in Victoria as an alternative to Chinese-style chop suey rolls, the original rolls contain veggies, beef, and textured soy protein. They were made using an adapted sausage machine and designed to be super easy to carry around while watching a game of footy. Today, they're still easy to spot in the hands of tradies and school kids from across the country. Now be warned, some brands of Chiko Rolls often contain ingredients that are simply unidentifiable. But don't let this scare you off. This just adds to the experience. Chiko Rolls are generally eaten on the go and they're served at local takeaway shops or by snack vendors at train stations, etc. There's always been this Aussie tradition of getting takeaway once a week. So if you're wanting to sound like a true blue Aussie, ask for a couple of pieces of flake, $5 worth of chips, a couple of potato scallops, a crab stick, and throw in a Chiko roll too, thanks mate. Up next at number 6, Sao's. Now guys, come on. What's wrong with Sao's? Founded as a charity biscuit, it used to be handed out by Salvation Army officers, hence the meaning Sao. And it's a light textured square biscuit that's made by rolling dough into thin sheets, then cutting them into squares. And these have been staples in Aussie pantries since 1906, and honestly, they're delicious. Now maybe what you don't like about them is the normal choice of topping, because often it's served with our famous axle grease spread of Vegemite and butter. But it's also a great base for cheese and tomato too. They're also commonly used as the base for a homemade vanilla slice, which is actually a dish that made our list of top foods to eat down under, which you can check out here. Check out this Sao commercial also from the 1980s, and look at how happy everyone is. Look at the toppings. Look what you're missing out on, guys.
Out the flavor of any food you favor. You can't beat a Sao, that's a fact.
Layers and layers of pastry make Arnott Sao biscuits crispier and flakier than any other cracker biscuit.
So reach for a pack of Arnott Sao biscuits. No, you can't beat a Sao, that's a fact.
Yep, you can't beat a Sao. That's a fact. Another one that I can agree on at number 5 is Mexican food. Now, this was the number one food that Aussies love to eat in America. And one of the reasons for that is that Mexican food in Australia is actually pretty poor. So I'm agreeing with those of you that listed this as a food item in Australia to stay away from. Firstly, Australia is a bloody long way from Mexico. It'd be like trying to find a decent Indonesian restaurant here in Nashville. It'd be pretty difficult. And secondly, the majority of what is called Mexican down under is really a mix of Tex-Mex meets Aussie influences, which really is a shame because Mexican or Latin American food in general has some amazing flavors that I'm sure if introduced properly to the country, it'd be a big hit, especially given we have such multicultural loving foodies. Memories of an Aussie childhood at number 4, and fairy bread. The way fairy bread rules the lives of primary school aged children in Australia is actually pretty cool. Now, I'm not sure at what age we all collectively decide that we're too old to eat it, but I can guarantee that if you bring it out at an adult party, it'll surprise and delight in the same way it did when we were 5 years old. But it is weird. It's literally a thick layer of butter spread on untoasted bread and then topped with an even layer of sprinkles, aka hundreds and thousands. What kind of weirdo puts all of that together and calls it a snack? Now, I don't know, but they need a good handshake, that's for sure. The origins of fairy bread aren't known exactly, but rumour has it the treat was first written about in the Hobart Mercury newspaper on Anzac Day of 1929. Why it was called fairy bread is also unknown, but some guess that it has to do with a poem of the same name by Robert Louis Stevenson, written in 1885. Now, I've tried serving it at kids' parties here in the States, and it's never been touched. It's received many strange looks, and I have never served it again since. At number 3, beetroot on burgers. What is wrong with you people? You can eat burgers all over the world, but nothing is more Australian than slinging a piece of beetroot on top of a patty made of Aussie beef. That soft bun, all beef patty and cheese is simply not properly done without the finishing touch of beetroot. It's so good that Mr. Ronald McDonald even tried to jump on the bandwagon with a McOz burger many years ago.
Beetroot, classic ketchup. Why the McOz? Because you said so.
We can go a step further with this one too. So if you ask for an Aussie burger with a lot, it will typically have a juicy beef patty in a bun, served with sliced cheese and tomato, beetroot, onions, lettuce, bacon, a fried egg, plus a slice of grilled pineapple. Now, I make these at home here in the US all the time, and I've had no complaints so far, even though I do get some strange looks at the use of beetroot and pineapple. Our number 2 food to avoid, Musk Sticks. This one takes me back to my childhood, running down to the corner shop with my sister to buy 20 cents worth of lollies and having some of these sweet sticks in the mix. I'm not that old, am I? To be fair, I guess they are an acquired taste. A semi-soft stick of fondant with an almost floral aroma and flavour. They originated in the early 1900s, and on last reports, one of Australia's supermarket chains, Woolworths, They sell around 24 million of these things a year. These ones have caused such a stir that the disgusting food museum in Sweden has them included in their displays. There are plenty of complaints from their strange shape to the chalky texture, but the powerful perfume scent seems to be the most off-putting thing about Musk Sticks. Their taste has been variously compared to a nice smelling shop, grandmother's makeup, and even the smell of old ladies at the bus stop. So what is the number one food to avoid when down under? Vegemite. I'm sure you've been waiting for this one, right? It's probably no surprise that it's the most hated of all Aussie foods. Honestly, you guys have no taste. It might be well known outside the country, but its appeal isn't. Typically, that's because foreigners take a spoonful as a dare instead of spreading it the way that we eat it, which is with butter on toast and a thin slice. Maybe add a bit of cheese on there as well. It's a hard food to describe to someone who's never had it. It's salty, it's got kind of a bit of a tang to it. Happy little Vegemites enjoy it for breakfast, lunch and tea, or so the song goes. And I've been living here in the US for 6 years, and honestly, I have it every morning for breakfast on toast. My kids do as well. I've served it to locals and received these kind of reactions. Although the ingredients are much debated about, the dark brown food paste is made from yeast extract, and the instructions for this are simple. Spread the toast as soon as possible with butter or margarine, and apply an even spread of Vegemite. Have it with your morning coffee, and you'll be off to have a great start to the day. So folks, there you have it. The foods that foreigners avoid when visiting Australia. And to be fair, you want to check out these videos too for comparison. It's interesting to see how what we grow up with plays such a large part in what we enjoy as adults. Hooroo mateys, I'm off for a Vegemite sandwich.